Hello and welcome to a new edition of Interview with Irene. And today my wonderful guest is the talented Jason Beaumont. And actually I know Jason through his lovely wife Jennifer. When we worked so many years together in biostatistics at Northwestern, and through her, I got a chance to see some of Jason's brilliant work. So, welcome, Jason, and thank you for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So I was wondering, maybe we can start by you telling us how you got into directing.
Okay. Well, first off, I've only directed a handful of projects, usually my own, but I'm usually the director of photography on a production, which means that I'm the guy that sets up the camera and either myself sets up the lights or directs the other people to set up the lights, and I kind of frame up the shots and everything and work with the director. But sometimes I'm doing both of those things on smaller projects. You can sometimes be the director and DP, or director of photography. So that's what I do, and I got into that at a young age. We used to make films, and back in the VHS days in high school and middle school. And then I took for a while I wasn't doing that, and then I started doing photography, and then on the DSLR cameras, they started to add video to that back in the Canon 5D. And that's kind of how I got back into it through photography. So I was thinking, well, a lot of the skills kind of cross over there between photography and video. So I started doing that just for fun. And then after a while, I started to do that more as my primary career.
Wonderful. And any favorite projects or recent projects you can talk about?
Yeah, I've had a few that have been a lot of fun, but most recently the one that's been the most fun is one that we did out in the desert. So I moved out here to LA a few years ago, and was dying to shoot something on the beach and dying to shoot something in the desert, and so I got the beach one out of the way pretty quickly, but the desert one was the one that took a little bit of time to get something together. But we went and shot earlier this year. Just a couple weekends, we went out and rented an old Cadillac and and had a body bag with a body in it, and the movie's called The Body. And right now it's and we've entered into some festivals, so we're waiting for all the festival responses to come back, and hopefully we get lucky with a few. But we feel pretty good about it. But it was a fun shoot. It was a very challenging shoot out in the desert, out in the Mojave and Death Valley. And just really fun to shoot out there because there's not a lot of people out there, and you feel like you're all out on your lonesome along long stretches of road. But it was fun. We had an old Cadillac, and we the guy that I shot that with, he bought a drone, so I learned how to use a drone, and that was a lot of fun. So we got some cool aerial shots and just had a lot of fun, as well as the trials. One funny story is that we stayed in an Airbnb where the little handbook said that there could be critters, and sure enough, we think some endangered kangaroo rats ate our bread, so we were kind of without sandwiches one day.
Oh my goodness, that's
Yeah.
so great. So, and actually, you like I mentioned before, I worked with Jen at Northwestern. So you two moved from Chicago to LA. So how was it moving, adjusting to life in LA?
It was more or less pretty seamless. We had heard how difficult it can be to find a place when you first move out here. Just finding an apartment can be tricky. But working in the film industry in Chicago, what happens is a lot of the actors there, when they get to a certain point, they'll move out to LA to pursue their film career. And a friend had done that. And literally just a few days before we were ready to move, we had Airbnbs lined up for weeks, just in case, we couldn't find a place when we got out here. But just a few days, she was leaving her apartment in Hollywood, and we were like, well, Hollywood's central to just about everything in LA, and it was like, well, that's not exactly where we were going to move, but it's right in the middle of everything. It was reasonable rent, because rent is pretty crazy out here, and was the right size. So we were like, let's do it. So we jumped right in. And so we got here and had a place to move right in. The move was pretty seamless, and we got to go and see some really cool stuff that we hadn't seen on the drive out. So we went through Utah and went to Moab and saw the Arches National Park. Highly recommend the Arches National Park, really beautiful, and some other parks on the way out. But we love it out here so far. It's the weather, everyone knows that, but the weather is great. Traffic's bad, but not as bad as you expect. At least coming from Chicago, where you can run into some pretty nasty traffic going to O'Hare, and so it wasn't a huge adjustment there. But it's just a way of life out here. But otherwise, yeah, we really like it out here, and it was a pretty seamless transition. It wasn't that hard to get used to living out here.
Wonderful. And I see a French horn in the back. You also are part of an orchestra now. Could you tell us how that came about?
Yeah. So actually, my degree is in music, and I was a horn performance major. So that's always been in the background. And I went into horn performance hoping to come out to LA and play for the movies. And well, that never happened, and life happened, and went a different direction, and lived in Chicago for a long time, but always kept up on the horn as much as I could. But as soon as we moved out here, I wanted to hit the ground running with music. So I started reaching out to local community groups and orchestras, and quickly found out that there are a lot of playing opportunities here. I mean, there's a lot of competition too. A lot of really great players live in LA because of the film industry and recording industry. But it also means there's a lot happening. There's a lot of opportunities to play, and I've been lucky enough to get to play a couple recording sessions so far. Nothing big or notable as far as like movies go, because those are the hard gigs to get. But hopefully one day that'll be something, and that I can do. And it's funny because it's a lot like the film industry, where you have to meet people, you have to kind of hobnob, you have to network, you have to get to know all those people so they actually know to call you. And one of the guys I ran into out here who actually cleans my horn, but he's also a guy who's recorded on like Star Wars movies and stuff. Oh, wow. He actually said, he said to me, he's like, you don't want to be the best horn player in your living room, meaning he's like, it doesn't matter how good you are if no one knows who you are, you're not going to get any work. So it's two groups. I've got the film group and I've got the music group that I have to try to connect with and network. And unfortunately, it's not one of my specialties, going out and hobnobbing, but you got to do it. So I'm trying to do that.
Yeah. That's fascinating, and I wish you luck in other aspects. I'm sure you'll have much success wherever you end up.
That's nice of you to say. I hope so.
I also saw your dog walking around.
Yeah, she's laying on. I don't know if you can see her now, right? But she's laying behind the couch over there.
Yeah.
Hey,
So,
Gertrude. Gertrude, come here. There she is.
yeah,
Gertrude, up here. Up, up. There we go.
I also see you and Jen posting pictures of her all the time. She looks
Yeah.
like a sweetheart.
She's our baby. Yeah, she's definitely got some personality. She's got some
Aw,
attitude.
nice. Any other hobbies?
Um, I um I like to cook. So that's probably my biggest, you know, when you make a career of your hobbies, you know, it's like what do you do for a hobby? Data entry or but no, so cooking is probably what I do the most when I'm not
Yeah,
playing my horn or filming things. I enjoy cooking, and the nice thing about living out here is the produce. You can always find good produce pretty much throughout the year, just because of the how much farmland and the weather and everything makes it nice. So you can
right.
always make a bowl of guacamole.
Nice. Very nice. Um, and finally, any advice for future directors or those who want to get into the music part of movies or?
Right.
Mhm.
Well, I was hoping you could give me some advice, but it's a hustle. They're not easy. They're not easy things to do. It's being good at either one of those things. That's just the first step. And a lot of times it's the business end that becomes the challenging part in finding those people because. So I would say the best thing is to find a group of people, find some friends especially for film work. It's finding the people who don't do what you do. Find if you don't write, find a writing friend. If you don't know how to operate a camera or audio gear, find someone that can do that, and try to assemble a close knit team, and then go out and just make things. And what I'm finding is that you want to make short, tight, good things because these days people don't have a much of an attention span. So it's if you got to grab their attention in about 2 minutes or you're out. So I would say find a good group that you can trust and have good ideas and go from there.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and hopefully we'll have you in the future too with any upcoming projects.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Of course. And thank you for joining me for another interview with Irene, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye bye.
And